Meet friends now. Chat line 0898 50 50 50 8. This is Task Carpets. Thousands of carpets, rugs, vinyls, tiles and wellies. Dining room furniture, no problem. Bedroom furniture, no problem. Massive reductions, everything must go. Task Carpets, Thorpe Arch, Frigg, Carcroft, Bradford Idle and Hull. But hurry, sale ends tonight.
If you're wanting something new, there's a great deal here for you.
Now on BBC Two, the third programme in our Open Polytechnic series, Science for the 70s.
The Pennine Hills, the backbone of England, the barrier between Lancashire to the west and Yorkshire to the east. Rising some 2,500 feet above sea level, the Pennine Hills have an inherent beauty with their benign and soft edges, often cruelly punctuated by harsh and rugged scarps and crags, looking for all the world like goblins staring down from their windy watchtowers, as if guardians of some sacred yet forsaken land. Our case study today looks at the geology of the Pennines, examining the Carboniferous rocks which outcrop over most of this area, from the limestones through the millstone grits into the coal measures. Our field staff today consist of Professor Hilary Bivalve of the Open Polytechnic, Dr. Timothy Wallpaper of the University of Keswick, Professor Roger Fondue, Head of Geology and Home Economics at the Leighton Buzzard Sixth Form Centre in Hull, and due to an administrative error, Dr. Concusta Newt, Head of the Department of History at the University of Shepton Mallet.
We begin by looking at the basal stratigraphy which outcrops here at Pinsky Gill in the northern Pennines. If we examine the rock here, you can see that it's grey, massive, and reacts with acid to give off carbon dioxide. It's a limestone and is of Tournasian age, lying unconformably on pre-Carboniferous basement. The junction between the two lies somewhere beneath my feet.
The Yorkshire Dales show classic limestone scenery, with limestone pavements and caves and things commonly seen. But in what kind of environment would these have formed in? Hilary.
All the limestone you see around me was laid down in a warm, shallow, shelf sea environment on the southern edge of the Eurasian continent. The British Isles were situated a few degrees north of the equator at this time, giving ideal conditions for reef limestones to flourish in. This gave some 1,200 metre sequence of limestones, dolomites and thin shales.
We have evidence here for shallow marine conditions with the flourishing fossil fauna we find here. Here, for instance, we find brachiopods, corals and sponges. And this continued for a number of years until something rather strange occurred. And for that, we need to move southwards.
Here, in the High Pennines, we see a very different rock type. It doesn't look like a limestone, and it doesn't react with acid. It is fairly coarse-grained, with plenty of quartz present, plagioclase feldspar and muscovite mica. It's a sandstone from the Millstone Grit series. It is of Numerian age, and if we turn the rock over, worm bioturbation can be seen in proliferation on bedding planes. This shows that the sediment that formed this rock was burrowed by worms. Now, if we move a further 150 kilometres to the south, the millstone grit series can be seen at its thinnest, somewhere near Leicester in Leicestershire.
An arsehole.
Here, near Leicester, the millstone grit sequence has thinned to virtually nothing. Anyway, we'll take a look back up in Yorkshire. In contrast to being much thicker here.
This diagram shows the variations in thickness of the millstone grit. Note how there is a marked thinning of the units southwards, showing the source was somewhere to the north of the Pennines. So, is there evidence to suggest the millstone grit is made up of cycles of sandstones and shales, with frequent marine incursions? Hilary.
Well, rather than the millstone grit being a thick homogeneous sandstone sat on top of the limestone, we find an erosional contact between the two units. This marks a change from shallow non-clastic sedimentation to cyclic sandstone and shale formations. Where did these sandstones come from and why? Roger.
What we find during the Numerian Age are periodical fluxes of deltaic sediments from Laurasia to the north. These are separated by shale beds showing marine bands, and these show that this is formed by deltaic sediment.
I stand here on the bloodiest of battlefields of Marston Moor. The 2nd of July 1664 proved to be the parliamentary straw which broke the camel's back. As I look to my left, I see the point where Oliver Cromwell single-handedly struck down 17 men. And on my right is the point where King Charles spoke those famous words. Those who hate me as much as the devil, but those who love me not as well as their dinner.
We find at the end of Numerian times a change in lithology from the sandstones and shales of the millstone grit to coals formed in freshwater conditions in the Westphalian coal measures.
I am now on the exposed coalfield on the western limb of the Pennines, in a road cutting near Halifax. These beds superficially look like the millstone grit series. Rhythmic deposition is still apparent. The sandstones here are thinner and are finer grained. Marine bands are very uncommon, but non-marine shell beds are very common.
Plant debris is ubiquitous, and seams of coal are thicker and more abundant as we move upwards through this unit. It seems the subsiding area of deposition became filled up at frequent intervals to give extensive flats and formed extensive coal forests. Continued subsidence drowned these forests under deltaic muds to form coals. This continued for some 700 to 1,000 metres of coal and sediment. But what happens to plant material for it to form coal?
To form coal, we begin with about 1/4 pound of good quality plant debris. The best debris to use is that of vascular plants, but any kind will do. Place this in the bottom of an oven-proof dish until it's about half full. Next, place some overburden on the plant material. I'm just going to use an old stone from the garden, but for authenticity, you might like to use several hundred metres of arenaceous sediment. Then place in an oven at gas mark 6, that's 200 degrees centigrade, for about 50,000 years. Here's one I've prepared earlier. Here we go. And for that special flambe effect to impress guests, why not simply light it? Voila!
That looks great, Hilary. I don't normally like coal, but that's really warming. But let's have a summary of what we've seen today.
Unconformity!
Millstone grit.
Coal! 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 Help!
Limestone!
And that's the end of the programme. Until next week, goodbye.
I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white